Beauty! And we're good to go. I don't think there's a whole lot of news to talk about. We broadcasted yesterday, and I don't think much really happened in the world of gaming.
No, I don't remember. I think we're all kind of just waiting on those next-gen hardware and games.
Yep.
And just the never-ending waiting. Just next few months, just teleport on by.
I am salivating for my PS5 with Demon Souls. Oh my.
I'm just very excited for just new hardware and then just the new generation of games to just see how far we push the envelope again. It's getting a bit crazy. It's made.
Well, one of the
even this.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, because usually people, I've seen it. People like, oh, it's not that super impressive yet. Oh, it's not too bad. But you have to keep in mind, look at the PS2 on launch, the games on launch, and then look at the PS2 at end of launch, or even actually any hardware generation, even like the Nintendo, like the NES, like games on launch versus games at the end, and sure, yeah, it's not too much now, but developers are just getting those dev kits now, and they're already doing impressive things. But just give it a year or two, it's gonna be amazing what we're going to be seeing, and stuff like the no loading screens, all these new things that we're just going to get used to. Then I think that's going to be a big thing. We always joke about kids these days and stuff like that, but all of a sudden a kid's going to go play retro games. Like, what's this? What's this screen thing that I'm looking at? Why can't I do anything? Why can't I move or interact? What is this? It's
why did the game stop for a few minutes? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, loading screens were you had to wait? You had to wait for your game? It's like, yeah, sometimes we had to wait minutes.
We had to wait so long with some games that I ended up writing songs about the loading screen while watching the loading screen waiting for the game to start, okay? I had songs done. I had lyrics that I could sing while waiting for the game to be done. It was absolutely a thing.
And playing with friends, you come up with little mini games to do while you wait, because especially back in reading off discs and PS2 times before you even install things onto the drives for PS3s and PS4s. Now it still took a while to load, and I remember even some of I think FIFA might have done it, and I know some of the MX Unleashed games had games in their loading screens because their loading screens were too long, so they gave you little mini games that you can play.
I was actually going to mention that. I was going to say, have we actually done an episode about loading their screens? I think we did. I don't remember though.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't think I think we mentioned them here and there, but yeah, it's something that is apparently going away, which is good.
Yeah, I even remember back in the days when Flash just became a big thing on the net, and everything was all about having a Flash website on the internet at that point. That was the thing to have. Everybody wanted the Flash because buttons weren't all boxy and things could be everywhere, and you could have graphical interactions and make it look kind of gamey and very smooth. But websites had loading times. You hit the website and there was a loading bar and you had to wait for it to finish. And some of them actually built in Breakout and stuff like that. And you would sit there and play Breakout as you waited for the website to load. We're all glad that trend died.
Yeah.
But let's do that next week then. Let's talk about. Let's do an ode to loading screens. Since they're dying, loading screens are going the way of the ghost.
I've heard, hopefully, at least. That'd be cool to see.
All right, typed it out. Next week, that's what it'll be, loading screens. This week, however, we've got to talk about my favorite horror survival game.
Oh, wow. Didn't know it was your favorite.
Yeah. Dethroned the Resident Evil series. Dead Space 2 is easily my favorite horror survival game. Dead Space 1 is right up there. Fantastic game. But it was not as good as 2. 2 was a crowning achievement. I don't look forward to playing 3. You should never meet your heroes.
Yeah, it's definitely not great, but I also don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be. It's still definitely an enjoyable experience, especially if you like the Dead Space series. It's still
good.
Dead Space.
Good. I hope everybody talking negative about the game is going to make me love it. Because I'll be coming into it expecting crap, and then like, hey, this isn't crap. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
That's my hope.
It definitely could have been a lot better, especially given like the change from 2 to 1, and then 3 went in kind of like the weird direction where they wanted to do the whole microtransaction thing, and you could tell there were some decisions that were probably pulled in from the publisher that weren't ideal. But the inclusion of co-op I found was really good, a lot better than the multiplayer that was added to Dead Space 2. But that was kind of the era of the single player games are dying, so every game needs to have multiplayer.
Yep.
To make sure that we can sell these games, because of, I think it was Call of Duty was one that first started that, where it was like, there's a single player campaign, but now we have multiplayer, and the multiplayer is what's selling the games. And everyone's like, well, we want that. We want multiplayer. We want multiplayer to sell the game, and it's a whole different thing. Like, it's
when it's campaign multiplayer, it's not going to sell the game anywhere nearly as well as a competitive multiplayer will. The competitive multiplayer just creates so much replayability.
Yeah, especially these ones where like get kind of shoehorned in after the fact, because these games are designed to be first player like single player games, and then like shooting games to make it multiplayer. But Dead Space 3 being co-op is probably the way they should have gone for the second. And it is really fun to do it with a buddy and do the double stomp.
The big complaint I get from Dead Space 3 from people I talk to is that if you play it single player, the second player pops into a lot of your cutscenes randomly, even though they're not there. They're in the cutscene, even if you're playing single player, and it's just really breaking for the immersion.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a bit strange that would go that way, but I guess I've played the co-op. I don't know if I've actually played the single player. I guess my assumption was that, because usually what happens is when there's a co-op mode, it's usually like a separate kind of thing. But I guess this game, it's probably still the same. So I guess maybe they.
Yeah, that's basically what they did. They made it to be multiplayer, and then there's a single player option. Is sort of how they designed it. So all the cutscenes are made assuming you're in multiplayer.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I guess it's just like probably limitations around that for making 2 whole campaigns, but it's definitely not really an excuse to just have the person disappear and reappear.
No,
I was playing. I actually recently just beat Resident Evil 6 co-op.
Yep.
And all the game is definitely like co-op orientated, like a lot of the like Resident Evil 5 kind of was. Except for one of the campaigns. So you basically, there's like 4 or 5 different stories. They all intertwine.
Mm-hmm.
But you play as like Chris Redfield and of course Leon Kennedy, and they all have like the partner they associate with that. And then there was Ada Wong, and Ada Wong doesn't have anyone because she's kind of just on her own in the Resident Evil. But the co-op was shoehorned, so you just play as like a SWAT guy. But Ada Wong's whole thing is that she can like shoot her grappling hook and swing around. So when you're doing co-op, like Ada Wong will go up like, all right, I got a grappling hook, and just grappling hooks away, and then in the next scene you're just standing there beside them like, hey, I'm here now too. And like you don't get a name, you don't get anything. You can totally tell them like, oh, we can't have a single player campaign with all the co-op ones. Quickly make a co-op, and they just like shoehorn it right in there. You're in none of the cutscenes, none of anything. You're just all of a sudden just there. And then like it's not even like level change. It's just like part of the mechanics is you just jump around using the grappling hook, and then every time they do that, you just appear beside them too. And it's just hilarious. The rest of the campaign games, like the campaigns felt great, and all of a sudden you feel this one, oh, this is what it feels to like be shoehorned and then break that immersion. It really does kind of pull you out of the experience and make it kind of silly.
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of worried about from Dead Space 3, but I mean, the immersion in the world building was nice in Dead Space 1 and 2, but really, it's the gameplay that got me. And as long as the gameplay is solid in 3, I'm looking forward to that experience.
Yes,
it's so good. The shooting is great. I didn't think it would be very good with the third-person view and the controller, but they made it control so well. They really did. I think the line, drawing the line on the screen for where you're going to be cutting, or like the 3 dots, it just made it so much more controllable with a controller. I couldn't believe it. It was a beautiful touch. We'll definitely jump into that more when we get into the mechanics and the control.
Sure. Yeah, and being able to rotate it, I found was incredibly
Depending on the weapon. Not every weapon could do that, but yeah, it made the base gun way more utilitarian and super usable. So let's start at the bottom, like we always do. We are missing the Rage today. He's packing. But we hope he's watching. Hi, Rage! World building. Where do you sit?
I would say good. This is.
We're specifically talking 1 still. So let's try to lock 1 down instead of looking at 1 and 2. But I don't disagree with you. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, I like the whole atmosphere and like everything they've kind of put. The characters, where you are and why you're there, everything going on. The technology I found was just like every little piece kind of intertwines and pulls together, just nice cohesive, like Event Horizon kind of thriller. You're just in space and there's some bad stuff. They did a good job of that, especially with the monsters and explaining what's going on with that and just their whole design, and then just the whole you are exploring. It's like it's hard. It can be difficult to make. Like a lot of horror will take from like earthly experiences, and haunted houses are always old buildings, and it's kind of hard to do an old future building. It's a spaceship. How do you make it old when it's something we're not used to, right? And they did a really good job of having it decay, maybe not in a natural way, but having it decay in the way from what's been going on around it. You can kind of see what's going on. It's that mood of like something isn't right, something is going on here, something is coming for me.
Even just their use of, as you first get there, things look fairly ordinary. Like the first time you pull up to the ship, it's dark. There's nobody responding, but there's no goo everywhere. The lights are on. Things are clean. There's no garbage everywhere. And then as you get farther and farther in, it's not just the fleshy goo that's growing everywhere, but there's garbage. Things are dirty and scuffed up. The lights aren't working. Doors aren't working. Things are falling into disrepair. You can clearly tell that nobody's been there for a while. Nobody's been doing anything on the ship. It's not had the attention given to it after a while. And that's really what I felt gave me that this is getting old and run down, is just the it's not being maintained aspect. Hey, Ward, welcome.
And it's definitely easy to overdo it. There are some games that will just right out of the gate, like there's no subtlety. They don't ease into it. Like you said, when you show up, everything's still kind of clean, and they kind of ease you into that uneasiness of something's not quite right here. Then you start off, you're not really too sure what you're going to expect, especially if you're like a first playthrough. You kind of have an idea from picking up the game and looking into it, but until you play, you're like, all right, I'm on the spaceship, and then as things start changing, you start losing your grasp of what you're comfortable with and what's actually happening, trying to figure out what's on, and then that's when they start introducing the actual bad stuff. And it's
that's actually a classic horror writing trope, and it's been done in all of the best horror movies from the beginning of time, and that is the escalation, they call it. So at the beginning of the movie, you set the tone. In my movie writing class that I did, we studied Carrie as an example of this one. You know the movie Carrie?
Yeah.
You know what happens at the very beginning of it? Do you remember the movie at all?
I remember the details of it. I remember things don't escalate until
things escalate throughout the entire movie. The very, very first scene of the movie, there's blood in it.
I don't remember.
It's Carrie in lunch hall, I believe, but she's at school, and she gets a bloody nose. And just a little bit of blood. And it slowly escalates from there, getting bloodier and bloodier and bigger, until that legendary raining blood scene at the very end of the movie. And it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds towards it. Perfectly done. Right. Perfect example. And that is exactly what this game was following. It was the spot on the classic. There was not taking any chances. It was not doing anything unique or original. It was, let's follow the horror formula. They nailed it. They did. There's a reason it's a formula, because it works. Characters, I would say good.
Yeah. Isaac has Gordon Freeman syndrome in this, which isn't really a bad thing. I mean, it worked very well for the Half-Life series. The main character doesn't always have to talk. It's really nice for immersion,
Yep.
especially when, like, at first, like, getting into things. I find that, like, you'll play a game and your character will start saying things, and even if they sound a certain way, it's from you playing horror. It's hard to get that immersion, especially for like horror genre stuff. You'll find that it's a lot more scary when you feel like it's you and your decisions rather than you kind of puppeting someone, because it's not so much on stake. Because if you're immersed in a horror scenario and then something happens and you feel like the character's going to die, you feel like it's happening to you rather than someone you're watching, and there's a bit of disconnect in what happens. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because most horror games will have some sort of dialogue, but for this one, I found that it really kind of helped build that immersion in this world where I'm just, I'm Isaac. I'm walking around. I'm doing my thing. People are talking to me and telling me what to do. There's enough dialogue going on that I know what's happening, but I don't necessarily have to be saying, okay, yes, okay, to absolutely everything that's happening.
Yep. Yep. Other characters were also believable, I'm adding, because I did like all of them. I never, there was never a point where a character's talking to me in the game and I was like, really? Come on. It was just good. It was a well done story. All right, I guess gets characters. Now we're on storyline, and I'm leaning toward good.
Yeah,
but I was a little confused by the end still. I don't think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, it's hard to find their intent, or what, if maybe they were too sure what's going on. I think it kind of suffered from that. We have a really, really great idea. We have a really good start. And then around the middle, you start kind of fighting to which direction you want to take it. And then you need to wrap it up. And I think maybe a bit more attention should have went to that kind of build up, and a bit more of a payoff to like the solution of what's happening and how things are going to unfold. But it didn't upset me. Like there definitely could have been a lot worse things that could have happened. It did kind of fall down into the formula a bit, which is fine for horror, especially in games, and the horror games are quite hard to do.
I'm never going to knock the formula. Like I always say, the formula is the formula for a reason. Right? If you can't beat the formula, use the formula.
Yeah. Well, at this point, it's more of just like the pattern, because it's just almost what has to happen for it to be able to fit a lot of genres at this point. Otherwise, it just will become a bit more action, or a bit too much more survival. I'm not too sure. I wouldn't fight too much against saying it's good, but I'd also lean a bit more towards just saying it's okay, because there was a lot more, I feel like, for room that could have been improved in there. But I think the world building and the characters carried it through the storyline that was there. I think the main focus was just the atmosphere and the world they put you in, especially with the creatures.
Yeah. Do you know if they had Dead Space 2 already written and planned when they did Dead Space 1?
I don't know. I watched their war story, Ars Technica, and they never really hinted to having 2 ready. And it was a pretty ambitious project for the first one, I believe. And I remember the development wasn't exactly smooth. There was a bunch of like internal bit of strife, and not like a bad kind of struggle. It's more like a lot of decisions had to be made. A lot of content had to get cut. And I think a lot of content that got cut, there's probably a lot of story content that probably got cut, and they probably took that and put that into what would become Dead Space 2. But I don't know if they had in plan for a sequel already, because I don't know if they would expect there to be one.
Okay, so they just, according to the dev story, they just couldn't get all their story in?
Yeah.
Then I'm going to give it an okay, because it really could have been better.
Yeah.
It was good, I liked it, but there was just so much unanswered. They needed the second game to follow up with.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone disagree? Any big Dead Space fans in chat going, "What are you talking about? The story was amazing." We're open to an argument. Otherwise, gets an okay. Still my favorite. survival horror. It's no Bloodborne.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The story was acceptable. It was very intriguing, and I wanted to know more, but it was never given to me. Hey Val, welcome. We're going through our review process. So, little summary for you. While I talk, let me just hear something else at the same time. So, our process, Rage is in the process of moving. So today he is doing his massive pack to move into his new house.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it because he's actually moving like 15 minutes down the road from me. And right now he lives like, a 40-minute train ride from me. So that's pretty stoked. I'm happy. My buddy's moving right beside me. We're going to be able to game it up. I like the game, but not a big fan. Still have yet to play Dead Space 2, but played Dead Space 3. Dead Space 2 is my favorite. I strongly recommend Dead Space 2. That game was so good.
Dead Space 2 is a bit more action than horror, and I felt like that was a good direction to take the series. It is quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, it still has the story, it still has the scare, it still has the spoop, it still has all that fun stuff, but it was just so playable, and I loved the removal of the map. You felt more lost. You felt more helpless. In 1, I felt safe and secure all the time because I can just look at a map and be like, I'm going here. In 2, it's like, I have no idea where I'm going. What's behind this door? But the story. So we start at the bottom, Val. Every one of these has a good, okay, or bad in it, and that's the only rating we give things. Bad means it did not meet the basic expectations that you would expect from a game. Okay means it's okay, it passes, it's not gonna change the world or anything, but it's a good enough game to play. And good means it was special or above and beyond expectation in some way. And we go through every major category. So we start with the writing. We look at just the writing, try to extract everything else from it. And then we evaluate the video quality, the audio, and then the gameplay itself. We break each one down into finite pieces, and then we give a write-up on exactly why we gave world building good, characters good, storyline okay, what our thought was. The idea being that if you yourself know what you like about games, you can grab one of these reviews, go right to the area that you like, get a quick overview of what was good and what was not so great about the design and the creation of the game, and then read the opinion piece. So like if it's a story is okay and you read the story was acceptable and it was very intriguing, but you did want more at the end, then it's an okay. It's not a good, but it wasn't okay because it was just an acceptable story. It was a good story, they just didn't give you enough of it. I think it's easier to build an opinion about a game this way. So we'll go into video performance. Oh, hey, are you on this one, Pseudo? I guess not.
Nope, not yet. I'll need that link.
Yeah, let me get the link done here. It's also 420, so I gotta do that. Follow along here. There we go. Now you can all get to the document as well. And these are always publicly posted. We have a whole database of them, and I'm hoping to get a wiki set up. It's live, but it's not actually set up or anything, where you can come and review these. So if you ever want to know what we thought of a game, it's all right there. Performance video? I mean, I'm on my super system, so...
Yeah, I played on the original console. I think I played it on I think it was my 360 at the time. It ran okay. I do remember that it stuttered. I stuttered a fair bit.
Actually, I ended up running on PS3 as well, because the PC wouldn't work.
Doesn't surprise me too much.
So I'm gonna give it an okay.
That's fair. I'm fine with that.
It was made for console. It ran well enough on console. Do not play it on a new PC. That's about my view of performance. I tried to play it on PC, and it was unplayable. On 4K with a high refresh rate, it breaks the collisions, and you can't walk through the first door.
Oh god. Oh no. That's bad. That's that's rough.
You don't remember that? We tried to play it the first night, and I played it on PC.
I remember that we had to. I remember that it wasn't working. Like I forgot the reason why. Yeah,
that first door that you go through to get to the first necromorph. It opens and the necromorph's not there, and it extends the wall collision through the door, and you can't get through it. You just end up running into a blank space.
Parts of old games.
Yeah.
Was such a crutch for so long, and now it's just like ooh.
So animation, and I know you can say some special stuff on this game's animation. So
I'd say good. It is for its time. They put a lot of effort into this, and they had to cut quite a bit that was going on for that. Even I believe it's the first one. Unfortunately for me, since it's been a bit, like they kind of blur together for me because they are fairly similar. The boss, the boss that drags you through the hallway, I believe that's the first one, right?
That is.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time and a lot of resources on that. I think to the point where probably a bunch of the team was pretty unhappy. I think one of the, I can't remember his name. He's the one who did the Ars Technica, the War Story interview. But they were adamant on keeping that. And I'll pull up the number sometime, but they spent quite a bit of the time on it. Like it took some time to get that, but I think they nailed it. Like the animation of it grabbing you falling on the ground, you shooting it, that stuff isn't easy to do, especially with the technology they had at the time. A lot of it, I think, animation-wise, had to be done and lined up like by hand and set up that way, and that takes a long time. But they also have to make it so that it'll still behave when you shoot the thing and still play it. They took a game where the whole premise is walking around, and then now you're on your back shooting it that way with the thing dragging you. So they had to kind of change up the mechanics entirely for this one bit, and it would have been easy for them just to be like, you know what, it's a bit too complicated. It's a little bit out of scope of what we want. Cut it out. But it really kind of pulled you away from what you were used to. Okay, now I can't move or run away from the things that are happening, and I'm stuck here and it's pulling me. And
it was
that animation itself was fantastic, let alone everything else they did. The monsters, the way they run around, the way they look, the way that even just Isaac stomps on things is just incredibly satisfying.
The weapons were one of my favorite.
The weapons, the way that they move and interact, and when you go to rotate them and all that stuff is done fantastic.
Yeah, I think just that scene in the hallway where it grabs you and drags you, and you have to shoot the weak points as you're being dragged, that alone gives it a good on animation. That was super ambitious for their day. Like when that scene happened to me, it blew me away as a game guy, understanding what was actually going on. I was like, this is amazing. But as a game player, the scene was perfect, and I'm glad they fought so hard to keep it in, because it makes you feel helpless. Like you've got control of the game up until that point, and all of a sudden I'm being dragged. I have no control anymore. All I can do is shoot and pray, and it was perfect. My favorite custom death in 1 was for those little skull enemies that walked on tentacles. They could rip Isaac's head off, insert themselves in his neck, then as the scene faded to black, you'd see Isaac's body walking off with this thing being your new head. That's pretty great.
There was a lot of...
That's very true, Needlag. That's a really good point. Enemies' movements and animations change as you sever limbs.
Yeah, that takes a lot of effort. This game was like most shooters are always headshot. You always go for the head. It was very standard. This game switched it up. Like shooting these things in the head doesn't really do much. It's just like shooting anything else in like the hand, or it's not really a target. You want to shoot those limbs. You want that's what you're aiming for. And then to have that be a feature of the game, a specification of the game, you also have to make sure you go along with that. Like if you shut off the leg and the thing still runs at you, you'd be like, okay, this is kind of dumb kind of thing, especially if that's the point. So it's really cool that they chose that, knowing the effort that would go into it, and then still, fought to make sure that paid off and put the effort required to do it well and be able to shoot off all the limbs. And they could have hopped out and been, all right, you can only shoot off a leg, and then that's it. And then the new animation is just them crawling, which a lot of games will do. I think zombie games and stuff are prone for that, where you can shoot them in the knees and then they'll go crawl. And there's 2 animation states for that. Well, this game you can shoot a multitude of things.
Animation states based on missing limbs. The custom death animations were fantastic. The Twitcher enemies in 1 were so freaky. The ones that had the stasis module fused with them, so they moved super fast and twitchy. Remember them. This module's fused with them. Dead Space Twitcher.
These things, yes.
Yeah. Resembles Slasher, but with larger talons, paler skin, and thick muscular body. Twitchers use their incredible speed to rapidly approach and slash foes with sharp talons located on each arm. I probably just associated them with slashers, is why. In my mind. I just shot everything I saw as quickly as I could.
No time to learn what it is. It's something else.
Yeah. Something moved! Bang, 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 click, 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 click. That was pretty much how I played the game. That's how you should play a good horror game. If it's not making you panic and empty a clip at something, it's not a good game. Style, I'm just gonna straight up, I'm not even gonna ask. It's a good.
Yeah.
Does anybody disagree that the game had great style? Are those the ones that were soldiers with stasis fields that were going crazy? Yeah, that's the ones, Needlack. Okay, nobody disagreed. The game oozes style and feel. Everything is in place and feels correct. I think it might have been DS2, but if you did Isaac's stomp attack enough times in a row, yeah, that's 2, because 1 only had a single stomp, and you just had to do the stomp and then stop and then stomp and then stop and then stomp and then stop, and it was 2 they invented the chain stomp.
Yeah, and DS1 Isaac doesn't talk, I believe. I don't think
That's
there's any dialogue at all.
There's no dialogue for him.
Yeah, this game was a very fresh stuff. I don't really remember the Discord too much. I'm very bad for this, especially back in the day.
Especially for a person that plays music.
Yeah, but it's like my memory isn't great, and it's only like those certain songs that get stuck in your head, which really just seem to be from like the '90s for me and a bit earlier. Like mostly all the Nintendo like 64 era games that had those jams that just get stuck in my head.
So here's what I'm gonna say. Here's where I'm gonna stand. All right, if we remember that there was music in the game, but we don't remember the music, is okay.
Yeah.
Because if it's bad, you'll remember it, and if it's good, you'll remember it.
Yeah, I definitely got the job done. I do remember that it does set the tone and atmosphere well. But it's I'd say it's okay. It's a good way to put it. But there's certain games that just have those songs that get stuck in your head, like the Halo theme and the Halo.
Halo had good music.
Right? Yeah, because you like those things, you can still hear them in your head. You can still, when you're going into battle, you can still hear that tune play, stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say this is okay. Yeah.
Bloodborne, I can always hear Cleric's Beast theme, like always. Anything I'm doing, it's Cleric Beast theme. Makes life so epic. The game's level design and aesthetic were great. Yeah, I do love the level design too. We'll definitely get there. This ship had this really neat mixture of brutalist and futuristic architecture. Yep. Um, so if you take the have you looked at that Scorn video I keep telling you to look at? Because if you take the brutalist architecture and throw in some organic Geiger, you've got Scorn, and it looks really fucking cool.
Scorn it's a neat style.
It was not very memorable, but it was never offensive. It fit. Voice acting. So that would have been
the other characters.
Yeah, the other characters, and also like your girlfriend in the visions talking to you, and the killer talking to you at times, stuff like that.
I remember it being good. I remember it being.
Yeah, me too.
The performances were sold well. I remember it never pulled me out of the experience. There's a lot of games, especially in that era, where it only takes one character that has a subpar voice actor to really kind of pull you that experience. They're like, okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. A bad voice actor instantly ruins a game like that.
Yeah, and especially since so much of this game is set up from those characters and the dialogue they provide you, because they really kind of have the voice that describes what's going on, kind of just like a backseat narrator. And I remember being good. I remember that the concern they have in their voice sounds real. The emotions that they express
were concern. There's definitely panic in their voice at times. There's very emotional responses. There was never a monotone pull you out. I'm with you. It's good. The voice acting was good. Very organic. Never felt forced. And sound effects, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely good.
Yeah.
So good.
They're fantastic. Good. Anywhere from just the weapons to just the stomp. That stomp. I would love to have a sample of that stomp. To like the creature noises, everything that happens, everything is just, it was just well done. You can tell they put a lot of effort into that. Even just like the weapon shooting and stuff like that, because they're not traditional weapons either. Right? They're kind of just
they're cutters. They were actually more meant for either medical purposes or ship repair, because he was an engineer. So he was just grabbing like rivet guns and line cutters and things they would use to cut up ships to dismember bodies. What a badass! Isaac's badass. I might be in the minority, but I dislike the fact they made Isaac mute in the first game. Yeah, I mean, it's a choice, right? It's going for the let the player really be him and don't put words in the player's mouth. And it was fairly common in that day. Worked well enough. I'm really glad that they gave him a voice in the second one, though, because the direction that they took him gave him so much person and personality. And we'll definitely talk about that, because we're about to talk about the second game too. Right after this one. The only real weapon you got was the pulse rifle, and it wasn't as good as the tools. Yeah, the pulse rifle was shit. Fuck the pulse rifle. Give me a line cutter any day. Or the Ripper. The Ripper is what I used the most. I loved that thing. It was pretty good in the first one, but it's goddamn broken in the second one. It just chewed through things. Trivialized it. But yeah, like even the doors opening, the sound change when you went into the zero oxygen and all the sound deaded out, and you could basically just hear yourself breathing, and you couldn't even hear the monsters coming at you anymore. Air's not rebounding sound in the same way anymore. That was some fantastic audio engineering. Grade A work. Loved it. That was probably the best for pulling me into the game as actually being there, was the audio engineering.
Yeah, it is a lot of effort went into that.
The stomp is the best. I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm never gonna argue with that. Accessibility. It has subtitles. That's a thing.
It's something. I don't remember too much, and I looked into it a little bit, and I couldn't really find one way or another too much, and I don't remember what their options menu would have
The
had.
biggest thing it's missing is colorblind options, but there's no color-based puzzles in the game, so that's a thing.
Yeah, but the health bar, I don't know if that would have been too easy to see, because it's not. It's hard for me to say.
I'm gonna give it an okay.
Yeah, I mean, there were subtitles at least. So it wasn't
there was subtitles. There was inversion on the controller.
That's important. At least they have. Yeah. You can change the.
There was audio sliders to adjust audio levels for different things, so you could emphasize voice and stuff like that if you needed to. But there was no button rebinding, which is really important for some people. And there was nothing for colorblind options. I nearly noped out of a Steam Summerfest demo because of no inverted control option in their demo. Yep, I do nope out of them. I'm literally unable to play a game if I cannot invert the controls. My brain just does not work the other way. I literally have to stop and think every time I move my thumb. And if I just let it go intuitively, it goes backwards automatically. I'm just a backwards brained person. I used to write from right to left and like mirror my letters. Yeah, my brain's pretty backwards. The health bar on his spine was a neat idea, but in the middle of an intense battle, it was kind of hard to keep track of. Sometimes I would just panic heal when I didn't really need to. Yeah.
I really like the health bar. I think it was a really cool way to keep the immersion. And
I like that you have to actually pay attention to it, and that it does require focus. And I think that reaction of yours is part of what they were going for. They managed to create an emotional reaction in the character of panic and fear just by the way they designed their health bar. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, which is probably how it would be if you're getting attacked by something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they wanted you to feel panicked when things are fighting you, to not be able to watch everything. Yeah. Yeah, it was a big part of the charm of the game for me, was that, you know, I've actually had my blood pumping after I played it.
And on top of that as well, like guns and stuff, the ammo was shown on the gun.
Yeah.
So the HUD was completely limited, so they went full in for that focus and that feature of just having very limited HUD. Any information's being shown can also just be shown to Isaac as well, so it makes sense for it to be there.
Inverted controls, audio sliders, subtitles. It is lacking key rebinding. Oh, and colorblind options. There was no UI, it was all in-game. Yeah. Part of the immersion. And mechanics. All right. Well, we've already started talking about it, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a good there for now, and then we can go ahead and keep talking about anything else we want to mention in the mechanics.
Stomp, stomp.
Yeah, stompy stomp. I love the stomps. But I think the first and primary mechanic that we were talking about, and the most notable to create the game's effect, is the dismemberment mechanic, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The fact there was an effective quick heal button as great too. One thing I always hated about the old REs was having to go into a menu in the middle of a fight to heal. Yeah, I'm with you. Breaks immersion.
Yeah.
I've always hated that about RPGs. Oh no, I'm in a tough spot. Menu, apple, 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 bread, 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 dinner, 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 cast a couple cures. Okay, let's go again. Like, no, man. Just no. But the mechanics, so the dismemberment.
Yeah.
To remove headshots. Changed the gameplay enough to create an unfamiliar environment. That was the first thing I noticed. Like, if you play a lot of first-person shooters, your instinct is going to be head, and then when you play this, you're going to be like, this is not working, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised at like how much, you know, of your ability and your skill has just been trained to shoot things in the head, and it really gives it an alien feel, and it makes the aliens feel, you know, even more different. Like, this is your traditional enemy. I can't just shoot him in the head. I gotta, you know, shoot him in the legs. This feels different. This feels wrong. It feels out of place. It's a good addition. Plus, it's just satisfying to like use those, especially of the upgraded weapons, and you have like the three to four, even the saws, and just shoot them out and
the
just
saws were
clear a room.
I loved having like a whole line of things coming at me, and I shoot them right below the crotch with the line rack, and you just get this whole hallway of things crawling at you. The kinesis ability was really well done too. I loved how you could grab the slasher's severed arms and use them as killing weapons of your own with kinesis. I agree. I liked the puzzles as well. The stasis and kinesis were well used, not just in combat, but also in puzzles. They were both required constantly. The first kinesis puzzle I got to, I forgot I could do it. But then after it, I took so long to remember that I had that ability, I never forgot I had it again. I ran around that place looking at the drive shafts that I had to make going, how the fuck do I slow this thing down? Looking for switches for, I'm sure the entire chat was laughing for like half an hour as I was running around looking for a switch to like throw the engine into neutral or de-gear the thing so that I could mate up the drive shaft. I just had to slow it down. God damn it. Even just being able to grab items from long range was great. Yes, you see, that's using the abilities you've given the player in as many ways as you can. I love that. Don't just give me an ability and then never ask me to use it or never give me a way to use it. I bitch about Grandia 3 all the time because they give you the ability to move in, like, you have attack, defend, all your standard JRPG options, and then a move option kind of hidden down around the bottom to the point where I didn't even really notice it. I never needed to use it once in the entire game. And then the last boss in the game has an ability where he puts a circle on the floor, and if you don't move out of it, you die. That's the only time you were required to use the ability in the whole game. And by the time you get to the last boss, you're not conditioned to using that ability. You don't even think about it. You've never used it in the game. Why would you bother? That's dumb. Terrible, terrible design. What else do we want to talk about? Oh, the UI. UI being visible in real time and on right angles. Great for immersion. Also added to panic during combat. A lot of typing, but the mechanics had a lot of things to say about them.
It was very mechanic heavy. There was a lot of fresh stuff, and they did it well. It definitely stands out from most of the survival horror you'll play. You play the Resident Evil games, you play Silent Hill, all those other stuff. You're like, you know, Dead Space is its own realm for what you actually do in the game, especially with that stomp. It seems like it could be like a minor thing, and just adding one stomp, but it makes such a difference if you think of the game if it didn't have that one mechanic of just stomping things.
That's all that needs to be said about bugs.
Yeah. I remember there was some minor glitchy stuff. I don't think there's anything game breaking when I played on 360, and never, of course, as console games usually are, just a crash. It's typically rare for it to crash. Unfortunately, that's a very PC life thing is, oh, my game crashed.
Yeah.
Consoles doesn't
Yeah.
really happen, but
PCs
lots slow down.
PCs may have the performance, and they'll always have the performance and the load times, but there's nothing for stability. Consoles.
Yeah, it's definitely it's like a sedan versus a motorcycle. You can go a lot faster, but you can also go a lot faster off the road and into things with it too.
That's a really good analogy. The PC is the hot rod. It's a lot harder to keep on the road, but you'll get there quicker if you can.
Yeah, definitely not stable.
And Val added, I loved the UI for reading the logs and such, since they didn't pause the game. You could still get attacked if you stopped to look at stuff at the wrong time, like in the Souls games. Yes, absolutely with you on that. RNG.
Yeah. I don't remember if there was really RNG, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I'm happy with the RNG in the game.
Because especially if it's a survivalist kind of game, RNG can get very frustrating, depending even how it's tuned. It's hard to balance that between it being too easy, and if it's too easy, like why is it even there? And if it's too hard, then it's just too frustrating because some player will just breeze by it no problem, and other players will just have a hell of a time, and then they compare experiences. And it's like, well, what do you mean that was hard? That was easy, and it's like, I don't know, like my roles are wrong, and it's especially for like horror. Like there's certain things that can be added in for RNG for horror games, which are nice. Like maybe like encounters to keep people on their toes. If they visit an area, maybe not have the same encounter in the same place every time. Maybe it's just when they enter certain areas, but that didn't really apply to this because it's more of a linear linear story. But I think it not having RNG was a good thing. I don't think it needed it. I don't know if it would really add too much to the experience. I think it was fine the way they did it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's good. You shouldn't have RNG in a survival horror. It should be a fine-tuned and curated process of survival. I played through Dead Space at least. Yeah, that's on 360 though, right? Or PS3, one of the two. Because it's actually like if you were to play it on a new computer right now and buy it on Steam, it would be unplayable. You would never even get to kill a single necromorph. Necromorph.
Unless you have an older computer.
Yeah, unless you're running like an ancient computer that's going to compare to its PS3 or 360 outputs. And anything above that, and it's just not even worth buying. And that's why it gets bad. The port was trash, and it needs to be known. I had to buy the game twice just to play it. It was requested. I bought it on PC, and it was so broken and unplayable that I had to apologize, end my stream for that night, and borrow a PS3 from a buddy and buy the game for PS3 so that I could play it on stream. That was the only way I could do it.
It's good dedication, though. A lot of people would have just been like, no, not playing that game, and just left it.
Yeah, got to get played. It's got to get played.
Yeah.
I will say I toughed through the PC port. I think it was pirated, and I had extra steps to make it work. So the bug that I hit is due to the fact that so your resolution is really important for what you're running at, and the refresh rate. So when I tried to play it in 4K, it ties the collision to a lot of the draw. And when it stretched it out to the 4K size, it didn't stretch out the collision right, and the collision covers one of the first doors you have to walk through. So that very first door with the first necromorph you kill in the first one, when it opens, there will be no necromorph there, and you can't walk through the door. And that's it. That's the end of your game. You can't go past there. Period. It was like that in 1440 for me as well. So you got to play it in 1080, and if it refreshes too fast, you've got other glitches and bugs you're bound to hit. So just don't play the PC port. Don't do it.
Unless they patch it, which is very unlikely.
Yeah, I don't see that ever happening. So it's sad, but play it on PS3. PS3s are cheap now. Or I think it might even end up working on the PS something else.
Oh,
Hopefully they
I'll
re-release
probably
it.
play it.
Glad I'm a console pleb sometimes. Absolutely. We were like, consoles have their place. You know, I may be a PC gamer primarily, but I've got a PS4, I've got a 360, I've got a PS3, I've got a Switch. I love my consoles. They have a great
As
game.
much
They're
as
reliable.
PC gamers would hate to admit it, games are still console first. They are always going to be console first, and we can always brag about how powerful our rigs are, but then we also typically have to play ported games still. And game engines and game developers are still developing with the consoles in mind. That's why I'm stoked for next gen hardware, because now we get to see a lot of utilization of modern hardware, things that PC gamers have had for a long time, like NVMe drives
Yep.
and graphics and memory limitations that weren't here, and now the games that are being made will be able to utilize these even more. It's a very exciting time.
The inclusion of the NVMe drive on the console is a bigger deal than any gamer who's not a techie realizes. Because those transfer speeds to access cold stored data create all sorts of new render possibilities. All sorts of new stuff. It's very, very exciting to be able to read that fast.
Yeah, it opens a whole lot of doors. A lot of games are designed and developed in mind. Like currently, you can have a NVMe or just like a SATA drive in your computer, and there won't be too much of a distinguishable difference for a lot of games that you'll play, because the games themselves at the software level are going to be bottlenecked from reading from disk, because they won't be utilizing it, because they'll make that assumption that it's not something they can use. So they'll load everything at the front. That's usually why you have these long loading screens that tries to load everything at the front and load things as it is. But now, with the speeds we have, these drives can read at like 3 to even up to 6 gigs or 5 gigs a second. That's fast enough to load textures and models and memory in real time. So we can, adjust things as we are and, periodically load things for the scene rather than load it all at once at the start and then go. Because like games, I'm not sure if people played games like Morrowind back in the day where you would hit this invisible line in the map and all of a sudden it just says loading because it has to load the next part of it. What we can do now with the techniques of that is, you start as the player goes to one area, you start unloading the assets that he's far away with and start loading in the assets they're getting close to.
That's what we call lazy loading. It's a wonderful thing. That's what made open world possible. But now we're talking about making open world super high res and instantly real time. And that's going to be really, really cool. That's the big thing is a lot of people watched that PS5 demo and went, oh yeah, that's cool, but it doesn't look that much more than what we have now. But there was no load times in that demo.
Seamless. Seamless. It's going to add to a lot of really interesting, not even just like levels, but it's just the things that we'll be able to do now. Like people take, or they don't notice too much when you go from level to level, especially if it's very different. You're going to have a loading screen, and we're going to be able to like play games where things like teleporting to a different dimension is now going to be something that's viable, instead of having to use like hacks or tricks that you can only load like a certain room at a time in a different dimension. Things will be fast enough and load fast enough that you can do whole things where you can instantly click a button and you're a whole new world, because it'll be fast enough to load all the stuff, and they'll be able to buffer what needs to be loaded. There's a lot of cool stuff that we'll be able to pull off with this. I really look forward to seeing, maybe not right out of the gate what people can do, but this is like a year or two in when people really start tweaking and pushing the hardware to its max. We're going to see some really, really interesting games and new mechanics come out of this.
Yeah. So like you were talking about before, right? Let's do a couple quick little examples, because you were talking about these are the games launching with the PS5. All right. Let's look at launch titles. Super Nintendo launch title, Super Mario World. Super Nintendo final titles, Final Fantasy VI, Donkey Kong Country, Chrono Trigger. There's a change there. There's an incredible amount of addition in depth of gameplay as well as graphical fidelity. Then PlayStation was launched like... Even just look at Resident Evil to Resident Evil 2. It's the same console.
Yeah, it's like as things go, developers learn new tweaks and tricks they can do. They really push things in. A lot of it's kind of like smoke and mirrors, kind of hacks that we find out.
Yep.
But it's exciting to see what they can push it, and a lot of that stuff will translate to PC as well because we'll have similar hardware, and then opens up these games for all new mechanics. And like the reason why I'm so stoked on the why we keep saying the SSD thing, and like how that's kind of a big idea, and not a lot of gamers realize that is a game that seemed like it was revolutionary for its time, which was Crash Bandicoot, was a launch title for PlayStation, or close to a launch title for PlayStation.
Yeah, I think it might have been a launch. It was definitely close, though.
Yeah, it was in development before the console launch, at least, but they pushed really hard to make this new memory management system that loaded in these assets as they go. And that's why it was one of the first games that had these super detailed worlds with so much going on. And people were like, well, how do you do that? You only have so much space. And like you could watch, like, for more technical, they could watch technical limitations. And there were a lot of technical limitations. Like if you break down how much memory there was available and how much was in assets and what you had to grab from disk, and how much you could grab from disk, it wasn't much. That's why a lot of these levels were small, and Crash's levels are fairly long that you run through them. They were one of the first ones to utilize that kind of lazy loading, where as the level was going on, you unload the stuff behind you because the player isn't going to go back or can't go back. You free up that memory, and while that's happening, you read from the disk, and you'd start loading in what's happening before you, whereas before games would just load at the beginning, and that was it. And now we're going to start seeing that again, but on a whole new scale.
Does anybody remember loading files from CDs? Do you remember how slow that was? That was a wait time. So if they were doing it off of a CD then for those little levels, yeah. When we give people NVMe read speeds in their rendering and loading files, we're gonna see some shit. PS1 was probably one of the roughest gens for developers, IMO, because everyone was still figuring out what did and didn't work in 3D games. Yep, absolutely. PS1 was another one I wanted to give examples of, where it launched with not launch, but an early title that very popular, everyone knows, Final Fantasy VII, then Final Fantasy VIII, and then Final Fantasy IX. That's a hell of a fidelity change. Original. Don't give me that remake garbage. There. That's even the remaster. And then same hardware. This is the original. This is the remaster. But still, same hardware. That's a hell of a change. And then while it was a different style, it worked really, really well with the art. And that's still the same hardware. So if we're seeing what we're seeing now on the PS5, a couple of years from now is cool. And on your note of the 3D having to be learned, we're seeing that again right now, Val, in VR, where brand new techniques are being developed every day to do things, to move around without puking, even. I'm going to give Control an okay.
That's fair. It did feel a bit clunky and weighty at times.
Was good enough. It did not feel onerous to play.
It's definitely better than a lot of other games in the genre at the time. Did not have the Resident Evil tank controls, thank God. I'm amazed that Resident Evil made it as long as it did with tank controls. I don't play all the way to 5, and even 6 had a little bit of the tank controls going on. But the whole like you can't move and shoot is just wild to me, especially in. I mean, I guess it makes sense for trying to stress the player out in a horror game where like I want to shoot this thing, but I can't move back as it runs at me. But it is so frustrating to turn around those games. You feel like you're just a tank. You're just like, all right, let's try to turn it around. It's going to take me like 5 seconds to, start stumbling around, bumping and everything. All right, here we go.
The
quick turnaround.
The Austin Powers hallway turn, even though you're on feet.
basically. And then they had like the quick turn, but it never worked well enough to the point where like if you were kind of looking at an angle, or you'd start to look and then do it, you'd end up just kind of looking directly in the wall, and the camera angle would just go to shit. And you're like, I don't know what's going on, and then you get your head cut off by a guy with a chainsaw. It's like, okay, I'd really like to move and shoot at the same time, please.
Yeah, even if I can't aim very well. So it works out to 3 goods and an okay. That okay is like a borderline good.
Yep.
I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's a solid score for the game. It's about where I see it. It's far from perfect, but definitely worth playing.
And then we can talk about the one that's closer to perfect.
Yeah. Does anybody disagree with this before we move on? Or have we defended our points well enough that we can just put this one to rest? Okay. Sounds good. I'll pull up the next one. So hopefully everybody likes Dead Space, because now we're talking about Dead Space 2.
Another series that I forgot is a good example of early gen to late in gen of a system was Gears of War, from Gears of War 1 to Gears of War 3. If you look at Gears of War 1, when people go back and don't look at the kind of upscaled HD version, it wasn't much. There wasn't much going on for it. And then you could it compared to Gears of War 3, you can really see the improvements that happened over the years.
Right on. I didn't play the Dead Space series. I didn't play the Gears of War series, so I wouldn't have known that one as an example. That was more in the era where I wasn't playing console games.
Fun fact, Gears of War was the reason, or one of the reasons why the Xbox 360 got twice the RAM it needed. It was a launch title, and I think it was, I can't remember if it had 512 megabytes of RAM, or if it was, I think it had 512, and they wanted to originally give it 256. And I think someone from Xbox or someone from Microsoft would have been had a hand in development, and they're saying like they basically showed them 2 versions. Like, this is what it looks like with this much memory, and this is what it looks like with like on 256. And there's basically like, yeah, we can't do that. We have to have the more, even though it was so expensive at the time, and that really adds up when you're selling for every console.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it was such a difference, and I can't imagine if they didn't have that and they stuck with the original half the memory it had, it would have been crazy. So thanks to Gears for that.
Yeah, great little story.
Also, the coalition is local in Vancouver, which is nice.
Yeah, I know. Girl that I used to know and party with once in a while ended up working as she was a producer at the studio, and also worked in marketing.
Right on.
Yeah. Follow along here. There we go. Play Gears of War 1. I may submit it sometime now. Okay.
It's a fairly fun game.
That one.
It's pretty good. It's kind of strange, and it aged a bit weird. But overall, it's a solid experience.
Yeah, it's primarily like a duck and cover shooter, right?
Yeah, third person duck and cover, and it strangely doesn't get repetitive, which is nice. I mean, there's like 5 of them now, but it's
definitely funner co-op. Well, I mean, every game's funner co-op.
Yeah. Yeah.
If your game isn't more fun with friends, then it's not the game's fault, it's your friend's fault. World building. Are we moving right into Dead Space 2 now? World building?
Yep.
I've already put a good there without asking anyone.
That's fair. That's fair. They definitely didn't suffer from the sequelitis of let's just use the first thing we have and not do anything different because we got it right the first time. They definitely at least put effort into the sequels world and change things up. And
but already known by the player.
that is something that unfortunately Gears kind of suffers from a bit too. From 1 to 2 is they don't do a whole lot of world building.
And the ending expands on the world well. That's all I'm going to say. I want to avoid major spoilers for people that read it before they play it, but stop it right there. I think it says it well. Also, we'll talk about that more later on, but yeah, the last boss, so good. I loved the way they did it. Characters. I think it automatically gets a good just because of the way Isaac evolves. I think that alone deserves a good.
Yeah, they did a really good job in Isaac. And that's, yeah, it's one of those things where, especially if you have the first game where you have like Gordon Freeman syndrome and then give him a voice, there's a lot of games that really mess it up. And that's the first thing people hate. It's really hard to do that. It's really hard to go from your first game where they don't have a personality or a voice or any kind of dialogue and then adding it and then making it so that people don't hate it. And people first thing people will do when it's new is most people immediately probably won't like it just because it's a bit of a change and it'll kind of break the immersion and the game's different, which is fun. Like, you can't make the same game every time. It's kind of like if Valve tried to give Gordon a voice and dialogue, it would have to be done very well for people to not immediately just reject and hate it. And I think that the character that Isaac is very well done in this game. He's very relatable, especially for like the engineer role he has. You can relate to what's going on. You can relate to what he's doing, and you can relate to his frustration with what's going on when he starts yelling and swearing and being in these stressful situations. And it definitely adds a lot to the game as well. And even though the first game is immersive in the fact that you can put yourself in his role, the second game is still immersive because you're relating to the character and you like him and you want to see him succeed and not die. So it's still very well done in that regard.
Pretty much all the NPCs around Isaac are disposable other than Carver. Carver's the crazy guy, right? Is that right? The guy who takes Girlie's eye out later on? Because he was good. The girl I thought was good as well. She serves her purpose. The other player character. In 2? There's another player character. Play as him as DLC in 2 or the other main character. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't do the DLCs in 2, so I wasn't aware of that. I'm just going off of the main non-DLC core story game as a whole. Yeah, the crazy guy and the girl, they served their purpose to deliver story. I liked their voicing. I liked their reading. They had their own drives, goals, motivations. The bad guys had their own drives, goals, motivations. Everybody has a purpose. It's not just, I am a bad guy that's going to do this. Ha 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 ha. Like the whole, I was actually attached to them enough. I didn't want the guy to die. I felt bad when Girlie got her eye stabbed out because I left her with the crazy guy and told her to take care of him. I felt bad when I had to kill him.
They were relatable. They were real. They felt human. They didn't feel like they fell into the classic tropes. You couldn't really identify the character to exactly what they were when you met them. They weren't just like, all right, this is, immediately like an antagonist, or this is immediately, the kind of like leader trip or the leader trope. It was dynamic enough and it felt authentic and organic.
Yeah. It's okay to have somebody who's a good guy and a bad guy, but it's the motivation and the reasoning behind them being a good guy and a bad guy that matters on character writing and character creation and character development within the world of writing. They used stereotypes well. They're stereotyped enough that you have an understanding and an idea of who they are and what they are at a glance in an initial meeting, but they're not so stereotyped that they're flat and one-dimensional. They do change. They're emotional at times. And like I was saying, the bad guys never think they're bad guys. That's not the way the world works, right? So the bad guys in this have their own motivations and goals, and they're doing their things for a reason. It could be selfishness, it could be greed, but to them, they're still doing it for a reason, not just to be bad.
Yeah, it's always a really bad writing pitfall, I guess I'll call it, that people get into, especially with games, when the bad guy is just bad and they know they're bad. Like, oh, I'm bad. It's like, that's not well, like Thanos in like the Avengers series is quite a good villain, because he doesn't view himself as a bad person. He doesn't see what he's doing as evil. He's the way that he views it is that he's sacrificing everything he has to bring balance to the universe, when in fact he's killing like half, he's decimating half the internet. It's terrible, but to him, he feels like he's doing a service to everyone. He feels like he's in the good. It's his purpose, it's his destiny. He's a good person so that this will happen.
Yeah.
And then that just makes it so much, more terrifying when you have to, fight these people, that they're not just, oh, I'm bad as a bad. And it's a lot of conflict, a lot more depth to their character.
And as a personal bias preference, I like that you're not always told the truth in Dead Space.
Yeah.
Too. Like in any game, it's a key thing in the story writing to me. Talking to an NPC in some games, it's just a conveyance of information, and that's all it is. In some games, it's even less than that. I'm looking at you, Square Enix. The weather is nice today. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad I took my time to click on that NPC. Why'd you even bother making it?
Filler.
Just fluff. Pure fluff. Yeah. But I don't even remember where I was going with that. I got so angry about Square Enix's fluff that I forgot my whole point.
Talking about the bad guys and their fluff, and Dead Space, they'll still lie to you with some information.
Yes, just being lied to.
Yeah.
When you get to the Dark Souls level of writing, and people have their own goals and motivations, if the player is counter to their motivation, they might lie to you to try to get you to do what they want you to do. It's a reasonable thing. That's how people are. That's good.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's usually how you find out people are bad in the real world. Is there are people who will, you think are good, and they get up close, and then you find out that you've been lied to and things have been taken advantage of, and that's what happens. That's usually what bad people are, the ones that seem to be good and use that to their advantage. Exactly.
In story, I think this is getting a good all the way through in writing.
Yeah, it's good, which is nice for the horror genre, because it's usually sometimes where it falls pretty flat. Horror can be hard to do. It can be hard to do well. You can make games scary, anyone can do a jump scare or make something creepy, but it's hard to explain why things are creepy, and it's hard to make people care. Even some of the games I like Outlast, that had like kind of an okay storyline, it's still hard to care about a lot of the stuff that's going on. It's hard to get that kind of substance and the reasoning and the immersion of like, this is me and I'm here and I'm actually enveloped in what's going on, rather than just like I'm playing like Spooky Simulator.
Spooky Simulator. I like that one. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I was just saying.
Yeah, no. Actually, I was done. It was good time. I was finishing on Spooky Simulator. It's just usually sometimes that's fine. Like kind of like it's not a bad thing, but it's just. There's also the point where people try to get away from Spooky Simulator and they ham-fist too much story, and it's like, all right, well, what's even happening? And the other thing that's scary is the line of text that you have to read to get to the next level, and it's just like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah, so what I ended up writing was the story was intriguing and engaging. I wanted to know more when playing. There was enough reveal to let the player come up with answers, and not enough reveal to go to the level of cheesy. It's like Stephen King's It. It has to end about an hour before it ends. Then it's a great movie. But they gave you too much, and it just became cheesy with giant alien spider. Yeah. What?
At least the remakes didn't have that.
Yeah, it had its own stuff.
Yeah, it's still
not perfect. It was good. Performance on the second one. So I played it on PC. So
that's a good start.
Crushed it. Because my rig's pretty jacked up, and it's not that new of a game.
I played it on the original hardware. Yeah, it was good.
I did have
I don't
suspicion about
remember.
Isaac's girlfriend pretty early in one, though. Yeah, and that's good. You had suspicion. That's good writing. I had some suspicion about the visions I was seeing as well. Shortly after everything started going to shit while I was looking for it all. Definitely, I'm with you. That's foreshadowing. That's good writing. And not everybody will have had that. You were just perceptive to their foreshadowing. I think it was well used foreshadowing from a writing view. I did actually take a course on writing. That's where my opinion comes from on that. I love writing. Maybe we'll have to do a panel on writing characters. I'll
Yeah.
talk about stereotypes and how they're properly used and what the different stereotypes are. That'll be fun.
And tropes and tools to use, and what happens when you overuse or do things bad, and all that
Yep.
stuff. And
Yep. Maybe we can go into how to use escalation and stuff like that. It'd be fun.
or even doing proper foreshadowing. Foreshadowing isn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be subtle. It's not supposed to be like too obvious. It should be things that are, certain words that are in the opening dialogues. And if you really need to, you can flash back to them to hand fist in the person's face. But it should be something that when the person goes back later and experiences it, they're like, oh, they said this and other things, or things you see in symbols you see. But I feel too many people get too worried about, making sure that people get it and see the foreshadowing that they, at the end of the reveal, they have fisted in there. And I'm like, no, it should always just be subtle.
Yeah, that's definitely Kratos stereotype, but I'm assuming you actually do know, like, classic traditional stereotypes that have literally been used since the dawn of story writing. You'll see back to the works of like Don Quixote and stuff like that. They're still used today. There's a reason we use them. Yeah, I figured you knew. I thought it was just a joke. You're a pretty smart guy, but
It's the hero's journey, all that fun stuff.
Yep. The fool, the jester. So I'm gonna give it a good on performance. Does anybody have any other experiences with it? Basically, if you're playing it today on any hardware, it should be a pretty smooth, enjoyable experience. As long as you've got the specs for it. Modern day stuff kind of crushes it.
It should be fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was made for the 360, which had like 512 megabytes of RAM. It's very, very likely that you'll have 4 times the amount of hardware to play it, as long as the port is optimized.
The port was good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I got to use my keyboard and mouse for it, which was great. Made it actually trivial. Because I was just like, lim, 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 lim. Lim, 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 lim. I'd like to hit on terrifying the regenerator necromorph was for me initially. That enemy alone added so much tension to my first playthrough. Didn't they have those? Which one is that? I'm guessing it's not the white ones, the white flappy things that bring them back to life, because the first game had those too, right? Pretty sure. The white, like, manta ray type things that flew through the air and regenerated corpses. The first game have those? What is the regenerator?
I do not remember too well.
Generators are necromorphs, presumably a form of the slasher that are able to regenerate any lost limb in a matter of seconds with the use of unlimited biomass. Yes. They had one in the first one, too. That you had to kill. Or get away from. I'm pretty sure. You had to do something to it. Freeze it or something. Because this is talking about the first one as well. You had to kill it in a very particular way. Yeah. Dismember them, stasis. Do what the situation requires. You can exit the room immediately. Do so. Yeah. Yeah, I remember these things. I do and don't like stuff like that, but they balanced the ammo distribution well enough. Like that was one of my complaints about RE series is certain enemies just you weren't meant to fire at. It wasn't designed for you to fire at. And they were never super clear about where they intended for you to use your ammo and where they did not intend for you to use your ammo. And with the really low ammo amounts they would give in the higher difficulties with respawning ammos, it would be so easy to just like fire a few shots at the wrong thing and be like, I'm fucked, and just have to reload. Yeah, it was in 1, inexplicably 2, because the regenerator in 1 was basically the product of that one crazy doctor. Yeah. Yeah, being able to absorb the biomass around it. Maybe the aliens learned a new trick. I could see that. It is an evolving life form. You know, they taught it how to do that, basically. Yeah. Because it's a totally different location with a different marker even, right? They've got lots of markers. Animation, we're still on good, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, it's improved from the first one, so it's first one's good. This one's definitely still good.
Set a high bar for any game to try to beat. This game beat it. Okay. Good? Does that describe it well enough? Do we need to say more than that? Do you want to make any specific points on the animation? I don't think so. Okay. And the style was still good.
Sorry, my mic was muted there.
Oh.
Always helpful. Yeah, I'm just here talking, and like, yeah. I remember there being a boss that was in similar scope to the one that pulled you to the hallway in the first one. I remember there was something that they've raised the bar with that. I was just very impressed. Just in general, just the newer enemies, the way they react to things, the bosses, a lot of the space stuff flying around. A lot of really cool stuff going on with that. It was, and the weapons too, like they improved in the new weapons and the animations they added. That it was all very well done. That's the chain stomp. And what happens when you stomp on the things now? When it's just even they took that mechanic and still improved it.
The battle suit in 2 was great too. Is that an animation? I think that's style. That style. I don't think there was any actual animations on the suit. Suit changes were mostly just like a texture change on the body, right?
Yeah, it was more just like shader of the like stuff going up and upgrades and
yeah,
that's fun. But there was still well done, especially for it's probably more in style, but
I think you were more agile in 0G in the suit. That's still not. That's more. That would be better control. It would be the same animations and just different timings. But I did not know that you were more agile in the suit, and that's interesting if that is correct. I like that. Yeah, we're just gonna give it a good. We're gonna give it a good on style. The game's feel and atmosphere were on point again. The decayed ships looked fantastic and were spoopy. One thing on animation. While he types out his animation thing, I'm going to move on to musical score with another okay. New raptor-like enemies they added in 2. Enjoy your lurk. That animation when you would see them slowly poking their head around the corner was unsettling as fuck. Yeah. I learned real quick that line rack is greater than raptors, so I wasn't too bothered by them after that. I would just watch them poke out, be like, okay, come on. Okay, come on.
The like
Pull
childlike
around.
things terrified me. The way they just kind of run at you, and start clawing at you, freaked me out. I just hated those things. They're so
If I
creepy and
turned
weird
and it was
looking.
already running at me, there was definitely panic. But if I just saw it poke out, then it was just like line rack, come on. The baby enemies? Yeah, those were... Ugh. I'll have more baby enemies coming up when I play Dante's Inferno. So I think the musical score is about the same level as the first one.
Yeah.
As
I
with
agree
the
with that.
first, the music fit, but was never anything special. Not memorable, but not offensive. Voice acting?
Yeah, I'd still give it good.
I think it deserves a good more than the first one, even because of the
Yeah, with
addition of
Isaac.
Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac is very well done. I'm glad that they, like I said, like I was saying before, like if he wasn't as well done, it would have really not have gone well. People would have, complained and hated. I'm sure some people still probably complain that, Isaac, the personality they give Isaac, because when you tend to play these games that don't have like when the protagonist doesn't have a personality, a lot of people attach themselves to it, and then they play the sequel, and it really is kind of drawing to them because they're so used to, or they'll give them their own personalities. Maybe it's not so much a self projection, but you'll have an idea that this is a person, so you'll project some sort of like personality and expressions to them, and then if that's not close to what the developers give it to you, then of course you will be justly a little bit upset. But I'm glad at least the quality they gave him was very good. They could have made him like very whiny. He could have been complaining the whole time, like frustrated. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is dumb. I hate this. Like, there was frustration, but it was done well. It was a relatable thing. They could have made it like one way. They could have made him like your typical Uberman, where he's just like not scared of anything, kind of Master Chief level. Like, okay, I go and I kill these things. Okay, I go and I kill these things. Okay, versus what they made him, which was a nice in between of like, yeah, he's quite a bit of a badass, but he's still very relatable and gets freaked out and frustrated like any of us did.
He's almost an anti-hero. He's
He
almost
just
an
wants to.
anti-hero. Like, he's not really the hero personality type, but he's thrust into the hero role and situation by force rather than by choice. And that's the anti-hero stereotype.
Yeah, he's definitely just some dude who wanted to do his job. He was an engineer and just wanted to go back to doing one of this dealing with necromorphs and
Yeah,
that's rise to the occasion.
That's exactly what it is, Val. He's seen it before now, so it's not like it's his first time dealing with it, but it doesn't mean he necessarily wants to deal with it. Yeah, I'd actually, if I had to stereotype him, I'd put him in the anti-hero category on analysis. Maybe that's something we can start doing with some of our panels, stereotype analysis.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
a conversation that can be had about some interesting characters out there. And sound effects are good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because like I feel like a lot of people would argue on that, right? A lot of people would be like, "No, he's a hero," and it's like, no, and an anti-hero it doesn't have the conventional hero qualities. Like if you compare him to, like Leon Kennedy, like Resident Evil 4, like that's a hero personality.
Yeah.
He's sacrificing himself to go do this. That's what he wants. He puts himself into this. Where Isaac's like, man, I just wanted to go to work in my space stuff. I don't want to deal with this. And he's scared. He's frustrated. Leon's never scared. Leon's just like, oh yeah, there's like an onslaught of stuff. It's like, okay. You tell him to go to this place full of cultists. He's okay because he's a hero.
Leon's almost an Ubermensch. Almost.
No, he's not. Definitely.
He's full on Ubermensch, you think? Because he's not actually invincible. The Ubermensch category goes above his level of, like, he does fail sometimes. He does have to run away from a situation or two here and there.
Since 4, I don't know. They really just Ubered him up in 4.
Okay, so he just became a full-on Ubermensch then. The most
they
famous...
just throw, like,
Sorry,
the entire... Yeah, so they just throw, like, the entire... Like, what Uber is, they throw the entire thing at him. He's like, okay. Same with, like, he defeats Wesker. Like, Wesker is an Ubermensch. Like, he's just, like, Wesker, like, oh, yeah, you're, like, the fastest, thing alive. I'll punch you. It's like, okay. Like, there's something, like, like, after 4, he does really reach that tier point where, like, he's not invincible, but it's very, very close to, like, he doesn't have to run or back up from anything. He's very much like, oh, man, there's this giant creature infected thing. He's like, I'm just going to shoot it. I'm not going to be afraid of it. And it's still going to die because that's just what the games are now.
That's very sad because it's almost impossible to write a good story for an Ubermensch. For anybody that's going, what the hell is an Ubermensch? The best stereotype Ubermensch to explain what an Ubermensch is Superman. Superman is the Ubermensch. If you're suplexing super mutants, I think you're Ubermensch territory. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And it's just... a good story requires conflict and strife, and it's so hard to give an Ubermensch conflict and strife. That's why most Superman heroes are Superman shows up, Superman punches hero, Superman wins. It's not a great story.
Especially they don't have like a lot of writing will have like people don't put flaws, and they should have not obvious flaws, but they should have flaws that frustrate you a little bit. You say, why would you do this? Why? If I was in a situation, someone would do that. Flaws are supposed to be like illogical and kind of frustrate you, and like it could be something as simple as like from the Back to the Future series, like Marty McFly gets called a chicken, and just immediately acts on it, and it seems almost satirical, like how obvious of a flaw it is, but it works. It works into the story of like you can kind of build a sense of personality. You don't feel like the main character of the story is invincible anymore because as soon as this one thing happens, as someone says, calls him a chicken, it's basically his kryptonite. It's what they had to end up doing for Superman, and kind of knock him down a peg so that he feels more real, and it's not so much of like it's not as predictable what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I had another example, but I liked yours, so I forgot mine.
My favorite image of all time is still probably One Punch Man. It's definitely it is to the extreme, and it's supposed to be that way, and I just love it. It is just such a parody and satire in the whole genre, and that's a good one. Really, his kryptonite is definitely the writers now.
I don't know. The N64 was quite a kryptonite for Superman as well.
Those rings. You gotta fly through those rings. They're making a new game, I think. I wonder if I dreamt that or something. I
don't know if I dreamt that.
I don't know. It's one of those things, you get those like weird fever dreams. You're just like in some alternate world where they make another Superman game.
I was actually in another stream the other day where a guy is doing an N64 challenge, and he was asking people what game he should play next. And I asked, and no, he has not played Superman 64 yet. So of course, that's what I recommend.
That's mean. That is just that is. There was a Rocksteady Superman game. Official first look trailer, April 1st, 2020. Okay, that's April 1st, so I feel like that's that's not happening. But apparently there was one in the works that was canceled. An open world Superman game, probably. They're probably going for something similar to what Batman was, so hopefully they don't do it. I mean, Superman's a hard game to make because you suffer, like as we were saying, that Ubermensch thing of like, how can you make a game where you can't really die or even take damage or do anything because you're just like you're invincible and you're God. Even though that's what Kratos basically is. Kratos is still technically mortal and can die. Superman is like, unless everyone all of a sudden, it gets difficult, and then it doesn't feel authentic if all of a sudden he's just too weak. It's a hard balance.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about when you were talking about the anti-hero. My favorite anti-hero, the reason he's my favorite X-Man, is Wolverine, the anti-hero. Like like a perfect copy of the anti-hero stereotype. There is nothing unique about him. You look at the anti-hero stereotype, he hits every single point and only those points. But he's a great hero. I love him. Getting flying combat right is hard in a game. That's part of why they've never been a good Iron Man game. Yeah, well, the problem with Superman games, because there's no way for him to lose, is the way they try to make it hard is one of our number one sins that we listed for artificial difficulty, which is timers. Well, piss off.
Superman's got to fly through that in a couple of minutes, otherwise something happens.
The plane's going down, catch it before it hits the ground. That is fine. Take out the timer. Don't have the timer counting down. Just have a plane falling and let us go and try to stop it. If it doesn't hit the ground, we win. No timer. Anything we can do to stop it. That sounds way more interesting.
Yeah, or just like audio cues, you know? When there's 30 seconds left, for whatever reason, whatever the situation, you can say it's about to hit the ground and I don't have much time left, and that's enough for the player to know that it's going to happen, right?
Yep. You can hide timers and make them far less offensive. One Punch Man is not even about One Punch Man. It's more about the other heroes and Saitama. That's just there as like true hero for them to look up to.
They don't even know that he's a true hero to like the third season or something like that. For the longest time, he's just like the hidden true hero, and everyone else is just kind of like playing hero. And it's if you've never watched One Punch Man, it's a hilarious series. It is fantastic, and it's still well written.
Val just perfectly exemplified why it's so goddamn hard to write anything for Superman. A guy who can fly around the entire world 5 times in seconds can't reach a crashing plane in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was like what, Superman 2? Because Superman 3, the one where it's like it's between the nuke and what's her face? It's 2 choices to fly to, and then he ends up solving it by flying around the Earth so fast it turns back time. And it's like, okay, so you can fly so fast that you can turn back time, but you can't fly between point A and point B to stop both things from happening. Is just
That is one of my all-time favorite moments in trash movies, though, is when he flies around the Earth so fast that it spins backwards and reverses time.
You can totally see that being like late in the writing, and they've probably already started some production, and they're making some script adjustments, and then someone's like, "Wait, guys, but like now what do we do?" It's like, I don't know. Roll back time. But what about this? I don't care about that time. Roll it back. It's like, yeah.
It's just a straight up Deus Ex Machina ending for no reason whatsoever. Like, there's options there, but they went with Deus Ex Machina. Okay. Accessibility, I believe it had the exact same options as the first one.
It probably makes sense. Probably stick it with it.
That's what I remember it as being. Lack of color blind options, as well as what else was he missing? Control remapping. Is down.
Unfortunate product of just the time it was made in.
Yeah,
it was not common for console games to have those settings, but at least now those are starting to pick up a bit more traction.
Yeah, I'm glad they're getting more traction. We always say, and you know, if people love these games as we're reviewing them, don't take offense when we give it an okay or a bad. It's got nothing to do with the game. We give our favorite games okays and sometimes bads in some areas. Not every game is going to be perfect in every area. You don't have to be perfect in every area to be a fantastic game. It just helps to identify those areres.
Yeah, and it's not good just to say something's good because you want it to be good either, because it'll stifle actual innovation.
Yeah,
make it so that things can actually get better.
Exactly. Yeah, if you don't recognize and accept your flaws, then you'll never improve your flaws. Mechanics? Pretty much the same as the first one, right?
Yeah, they took the first one, they found a nice formula, and then they improved upon it. It's hard to It feels like we're in a kind of a broken record at this point, but this was a good way to do a sequel. And if we were to throw Dead Space 3 into here, which I think eventually will happen, then you'll see a lot of these change.
Oh yeah,
this is where a lot of stuff went from like, oh, you had a good one too, and then you went up and decided to take a left turn for some reason and change things up, and not great. Like characters and voice acting, I'd say weren't fantastic in 3. It started getting a bit campy and kind of dumb at some points. Still liked 3, but it's definitely no 2.
It's the most I can say. I have to give it a good for that though. PC port didn't hit a single bug. Don't remember a single thing happening.
That's impressive for a port, especially to PC. A lot of those consoles to PC does not translate well, especially with the hardware you run on nowadays. When you're like, you can hit frames that console developers could never dream of during the time of development, and a lot of them would never even think about it. And they'll even the smaller things they'll tie to it, like you say, like certain collisions and animations will get timed to frames, and then all of a sudden, you start hitting 100 frames and your game just becomes unplayable because it's running too well.
And the thing is, if they hadn't tied it that way on the console version, it never would have played as well or looked as good. They needed to do that. The reason they cut those corners isn't out of laziness; it's literally out of necessity. That's how they get that performance on consoles.
It's also a lot of like hardware specific tweaks that happen on consoles that do not translate to PC because it is you no longer have that hardware to support. Like if you're working with the same graphics card, the same processor, and the same memory, and you have those same lower level hardware libraries that everyone's been optimizing in the industry, you can do a lot of really cool things. You can make a lot of cool things happen. But then all of a sudden you put it on PC and everyone has a different machine. Every chip is different. Like it's AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, AMD graphics cards. Like the combinations are everywhere, and all of a sudden it's like you have to use higher level libraries to interface to all this hardware, and then all of a sudden you're very limited. And a lot of stuff, especially if you're porting it, you now have to translate what was designed for certain hardware now to be generalized, and it's not going to be an easy task. So then that's where those bugs start coming in.
Yeah, you start hitting things like different hardware architecture, where to use an extreme, you've got stuff like the Saturn where you had so many processor registers that you've now got to virtualize processor registers somewhere else in the hardware, and you just can't pretend to be as fast as a processor register. Even on old hardware, their data transfer between each other is so fast that things just couldn't keep up. They couldn't do it. RNG, still good?
I guess RNG is until the third one.
So the third one good because there still isn't any. There.
I know Dead Space 3 implemented, I believe it had RNG because there's drops. There's weapon drops and upgrade drops and stuff like that.
I mean, there is some RNG to what the enemies drop. Or do they even drop anything? No, I don't think they really drop anything, do they? Oh, no, they do. They drop ammo. They drop ammo and stuff like that sometimes. I stomp them to get it out after I shoot them.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much every enemy drops something. There wasn't even RNG. The only RNG was what they drop. And even then, it might not... They only drop ammo for guns you have.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's probably not even RNG at that point. It's probably just, calculated from like what weapons you have. And then from there, it's just like, okay, drop the ammo for the guns you have.
Yeah, well, it's RNG for which weapon you have, right? It's a very narrow-scoped RNG.
Yeah, I say it's at the point where it's hard to distinguish between if it was actually RNG or they might even just have a thing where like drop ammo for lowest.
You know what? I think it might even be beyond scoped on that because I remember different ammo types from different enemies.
Yeah, so it's hard. It's not enough that like it was recognizable as RNG. So which is fine. Like it's good. You're not killing something and not getting what you need because of RNG and having a frustrating experience. So I think
Val's right. Not only. I think I got 2 or 3 ammo drops throughout the game that weren't for my weapons. Of all the enemies I killed, dropping something. So it's pretty minimal. The RNG is super unoffensive in the game. And just for the record, so that people aren't just thinking we poo-poo RNG. There have totally been games where we gave bad for not having enough RNG. It's all about the game. different games use RNG differently, and it has to be applied right to different games.
Yeah, you can't have a loot shooter with shit RNG.
Yeah, if everything's dropping the same shit all the time in a shooter looter, then that's crap RNG. You need way more randomization in it. The one that we gave bad most recently to was Shadow of Mordor for not having enough random events happening during running around combat stuff. I should never have gone more than 5 minutes running point to point without having some random thing happen to me, because the random events were the best part of the game. And control was still okay.
Yeah,
I lean toward good. Actually, I'm kind of saying good because I got to use keyboard mouse and it was fucking great with keyboard mouse.
they added the space, like a lot of space 0G stuff. I found was actually pretty good. It controlled well.
I found
Could have been a lot worse.
A little clunky with the facing.
Yeah, I would say like, sometimes
movement
with cameras and aiming, sometimes it get kind of annoying. So I lean a little bit more still, just to okay. But I'd still be fine with giving it a good.
Closer to good than the first. It had some improvements, including the PC port, allowing keyboard mouse. Period. The 0G environments could be a touch clunky, and there was room there we go. Work fingers improvement. All right, and yeah, that almost, I'll let you add the goods and give a little summary. I have to use the little boys room real quick, and then I'll come back and we'll give away some games.
Sounds good. Oh yeah, I remember that. A lot of the yeah, that was definitely EA's fault. It kind of reminded me of the Universal's ad campaigns for their like Halloween haunt stuff. That's just started getting like really cringy, really just like pretty campy. It's like the B movie style kind of humor. So weird demographic to go to for like people with I guess they're aiming for teens, which is probably the highest demographic for console gamers, but it's still so cringe. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I kind of miss some of the sillier ads that you would see, and you could identify right out of the gate. Welcome back. Valve was bringing up the really kind of cringe ad campaign that they ran for Dead Space 2. That was mostly EA's fault for that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for that. I don't think I saw that campaign for the ad campaign. What did they actually do? What was so cringe?
Moms hated.
Oh.
They would show like.
Oh, I think I did see that one. Somebody linked it to me. Right.
Still on. You can still find them on YouTube. It's basically like they let moms see it, and they were just like, no. And it's like I feel like that's a reaction to probably like any video game. They probably showed the like I remember they showed the one where it looks like the like alien babies were running at the guy, and I feel like most people would see that and be like, no, I don't want to go shoot space alien babies. But it was kind of cringe.
Space alien babies are fun to shoot. It's just a fact. Just a fact. All right. Free game time. Getting the final names in. Let me refresh this, make sure I've got my current list. Okay. That's not good. I had a list. I hit refresh to make sure it was current, and now I've got no list. Bot? Please? Okay. I'm just going to reload that bot.
So turn it off, turn it back on.
Yep. Turns out it still is the best solution to things.
I need to look into other boards. B550s are available. I am excited.
Oh, sorry, what's available?
The B550 motherboard. The new AM4.
I'm waiting for new chips. New video cards before I look at anything.
Tempted. I don't need my motherboard is. I got a ASRock B450 that's like $100. I didn't really. I think I might have got that for free. Very very budget, gets the job done. I don't need to upgrade it, but I feel like it would be nice to have some of these features that these guys have, and these will work with next gen graphics cards and the Ryzen 4000 series chips. They talked to Rage. Rage is probably the best person to ask. So I think he's looked into this quite a bit. Ask for get his help and recommending one of these. I'm excited. New hardware is always exciting.
Yeah, I love new hardware.
I just want the new graphics cards, the new lineups. I want the new AMD chips as well. I'm itching to upgrade.
Okay, one sec. All right. My bot logged out, and I need to generate a new token. So give me a couple seconds to generate the token for the bot, and I'll finish this list up here. We had a bunch of people throwing cheers and all that fun stuff, so I've also got to go through it all, figure out who's got the additional entries. So, how's everyone's weekend so far? I think I'm going to do some Bloodborne later.
That'd be exciting.
We'll continue our lore conversation. I love talking about Bloodborne lore. Probably my favorite thing to do. And okay, 7 days are done. All I need is it's all right. You're not a big fan of talking about the Bloodborne lore?
Might have been to talk about the other weekend's guild.
Oh, that could be. That could be too. I guess I moved kind of fast there. My brain only ever has space to remember one thing, so after I move to the next subject, the last one's gone. That's why every time I wait for somebody to finish a point and it comes back to me, I'm just like, yeah, sorry, I got nothing. It's gone. You waited too long.
Weekend's definitely long enough. Saturday's almost over. And then it's Sunday. And then it's the dreaded Monday. And I've been having some bad cases of the Mondays.
Oh, that's
One of those
unfortunate.
things you go in and it's like, oh yeah, there was technical issues, and it's like, oh boy. One of the things you go to log in, you go to open email, and then it just crashes, and you're like, whoa, it's gonna be one of those Mondays, is it? And then when it finally does load, you have like five unread emails from all different sources being like important, important. You're like, oh, it's gonna be one of these Mondays. It's like,
My
that's fine.
advice to you and how I handle that situation is you right click on the top folder and you just say mark all as read.
When I did, I think it was a week or two ago, I ended up just being like, I'm just gonna ask for some time off. That bad of a Monday, the rest of the week is probably not going to be much better. Which take some time off and just enjoy things, which was nice actually to do for once.
Yeah, yeah, you do a lot for work. Go ahead and take some time off once in a while. Mm, okay. 1 second. I'm going to see if my Authy code is ready there. My phone died on me and I needed to charge it.
Yeah, the perfect storm.
Oh yeah, that's I mean it's it's live, so Murphy's got
Yeah,
to kick in, right?
yeah. When it rains, it pours. Why should one thing go wrong when they can all go wrong? Actually, I guess I had some news to talk about. I'm not sure if anyone in chat really follows PAX or goes to PAX too much, but it appears that for PAX West, and I can't remember if it's PAX in between now and August, but they'll be doing it online. I got an email a couple of days ago, kind of going over the process, and there's a survey that you can take, and it seems like they're trying to like flesh out exactly what they're going to be offering, but it still seems like they might be able to do some sort of playable demo still, but have it be like a subscription service that you have to buy into for it. And they were kind of going a lot into like the subscribers and what you would like to see from a subscription service, which kind of makes sense because they still need to make money because they are putting packs on for free online right now, and they're I guess still trying to figure out a way to monetize and recoup some of the costs they have. And it does make sense for because these like the tickets aren't too cheap, and it's a 4-day event. It makes sense to still buy like a virtual pass. Yeah,
Hey,
Evo is going to be interesting.
couldn't be as
Yeah,
tragic as Evo is going to be this.
I was talking about how PAX is moving online for this year due to the unprecedented times. And
Yep.
I got an email from them, and there's been a survey to go through, and it seems like a big thing about PAX, of course, is like the panels, the game booths and the demos and everything, and that's all going to be moving online, which would be kind of hard. And it seems to be what they might be doing is a subscription or a subscriber service, I guess, similar to like um, I guess for the event you'll subscribe, and then subscribers get access to like maybe subscriber only panels, subscriber only Q&A, subscriber only merch, as well as the playable demos will probably be something that's subscriber only as well. I can't imagine how well that will work.
Yep.
It seems like a big ask for game developers to have a demo ready that people can download to their system and play. That sounds like a nightmare. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was something akin to like maybe some streaming service that some games are ready to use can utilize it, stuff like that. But it's cool that there's still something. It's better than it just being completely canceled. At least we still have something going on.
Absolutely. I'm just typing out the final list now. My Authy booted.
The anticipation, the suspense of this poll.
Everyone loves free games, right?
Yep.
Not even just free games, just free stuff, period. It's great. This list is getting longer. I'm going to have to start preparing it. Twitch account, successful login. Thanks for that email. We have so many games. Let's do 5, I guess, again today.
Yeah, fair enough.
Almost done. Okay. Name number 1. Pull up the list. First name. Hey, it's Egg. Oh, hey, he had another one right above that, too. Gonna have to get on that with him, aren't I? All right, Egg, if you're listening, you've got games waiting on you. Give away pizzas next Saturday. I don't have money for free pizzas, though. I only have free games. My problem.
Virtual pizza.
And the game is Speed Brawl. I've never heard of it. Sounds like an indie. I put lines there so I remember that's where I started. Name number 2. Hey, it's Frenum. I know how to track that guy down. I'll enjoy giving him a free game. He's also a awesome streamer and a super friendly guy. I fully recommend checking him out if you ever see him streaming. I think this is like a multiplayer top-down, almost twin stick style. Don't remember. You remember Wizard of Legend?
It's definitely top down, like isometric esque. Or yeah, I'm sorry, not isometric. It's a top. I don't know if it's twin sticker. I don't know a whole lot about it. It vaguely reminds me of like Binding of Isaac kind of stuff.
Hey, Lo, you won a game. Memoria. Is that one of the point and clicks?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with it. Enter the Wizards. That's what I read originally. I saw that.
Memoria game. Point and click adventure. I was right. Kind of like Enter the Gungeon, but with wizards. Hey, I was right about that one too. I know games! And Jaggernaut. You're here a lot. You always resub. Next time I see you, I'll make sure to grab you and give you the game. It's a sequel, and you highly recommend it. Yeah, Board really... I thought it was from that series of games. That's what I thought it was. Board is a huge fan. The Deponia series, right? Tell Lo to get the first. You know where he is, too. You can tell him. Jaggernaut, you won a masterpiece. Oh my god. You have to get the game, you have to play the game, and you have to come tell us about all of your fantastic experiences with Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy Remastered.
Ooh. I know how to track that person down, so we'll message them right now.
Oh, excellent, excellent. You know who they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you know the game, Zudo?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So you okay. You're aware of the Cage masterpiece.
Kinda.
It's a masterpiece.
I don't.
It is a masterpiece. Hey, this is a cool game. I know Babowski. I work with him. Awesome individual. So I'll make sure he gets his key of... This is the police. Yeah, let's do one more. Like this. I literally have like over 100 games on this list still.
Yeah.
I think the only game Cage made before that was Omicron. I believe so. Hey, it's another name I know how to track down. And if you're in the Vancouver area, then definitely shouts out to Christo, because the guy runs the best detailing biz I know for cars. Only one I let touch my car. And that's a copy of Hacknet, which is an interesting little game. Cool. So we will track those people down. Also looking still, did that one already. Gave it one as well. Should have updated those. We need Sergeant Punk still. We still haven't found him. And I said we would give it one more week. So Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition goes back into the prize pool. I haven't given Snow Penguin Final Station yet. That's something I'll have to correct. Definitely.
Snow Penguin's in the chat, I think. They're here. They can.
Always. Snow Penguin's always here. I'll definitely be able to. No Scoopy just still has Witchit. Perry is cold, pops in once in a while, hopefully soon for GNOG. And Egg is on Discord all the time, so I'll make sure to hit you with your copy of Oxenfree as well as Speed Brawl real soon, and we'll get some of these off of the list. Awesome. We're a little late, but we had fun, and that's really the most important thing. Thanks for hanging out all day. I hope you guys enjoyed our review of Dead Space 1 and 2. Hopefully you agreed with it, and maybe even learned a little something about the games. Till next time, or not even next time, until a little bit later when I come back and play some Bloodborne, because Bloodborne! And we'll do a big lore discussion, and we'll argue about lore, and we'll scream at each other about what's right and wrong, and all that fun stuff. Awesome stream. Thank you very much for the compliment. I'm glad you enjoyed. So until little bit later, I am Deus.
And I'm Suda.
And there is no rage. We will be raiding a channel. Stick around after the credits roll. I'll find somebody, I'm sure. So until a little bit later, may all your shots